What's up YouTube? This is PaperCan. Welcome back to my Dwarf Fortress tutorial. Alright, with this episode we are going to start off with the bread and butter of what Dwarf Fortress is. It is designations. So you can see on the right we have all our hotkeys over here. So we can go to D for designations, and this is basically how we are going to give our dwarves orders and get stuff done. So when we go into the designations menu, our cursor turns into the familiar yellow X, and we have all these different orders that we can give out on the right. So it's already selected on chop down trees, and that is probably a good thing that we want to start doing. Now is probably a good time to mention that when you have your yellow X, you can move the cursor faster than one square at a time by holding down Shift. So I'm going to hold down Shift and go up and to the left into this area by the river where I think I've decided that I want to start building. So let's just chop down some trees here. I'm going to hit the Enter key kind of arbitrarily on this tile here. And what we're doing is we're basically drawing a box where the first time we hit Enter is the first corner of the box, and the second time we hit Enter is going to be the opposite corner of the box. And we can see that this tile here is blinking, selected. That's where I hit Enter the first time. And I'm going to draw a nice size area and hit Enter right here. And we can see that all the trees in that area that I just set out have become shaded. So those are all now marked to be chopped down. I'm going to hold off for a second on the Gather Plants designation, because if you remember, the guy who's chopping down trees is the same guy who's going to be gathering plants, and right now I want him to be getting wood ASAP so we can start building workshops and beds, which is one of the first things our dwarves are going to need. The second designation that we're going to go into is mining. And like I said in a previous episode, a lot of people will just start digging into the mountainside, for example on the right of the screen here, right into a hillside or a mountainside, and begin building their dwarf fortress. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go straight down right here in this little area by the river. So we're not actually going to use mining to go straight down. We are going to build a stairway, and stairways are not very intuitive in this game either. So we're going to take a second to kind of cover that so there's no confusion. The first stairway I'm going to make is called a downward stairway. The hotkey is J. And you can think of stairways as going about half of a Z level. So when we, it's not going to take us all the way down to the next level. It's only going to take us halfway there, and then we're going to have to build one of the other stairways to connect it all the way. So I think I'm going to choose right here. Looks good to me. Gonna hit Enter. I'm gonna make it 2 by 2 and hit Enter again. We can see the beginnings of our stairway here. Now let's hit the greater than sign to go down one level. And in the same exact area that is right under the stairway that's designated above, what we could do is we could build a upward stairway underneath it, and that would connect the two, and they would be able to travel between these two Z levels. But what I want to do is I want to build a up and down stairway, which is I. The purpose for an up down stairway is if you want to go down another Z level. So think about it, if I wanted to go down a Z level from this level, I would have to build another downward stairway, but I need an upward stairway here to connect to the first downward stairway. And that's why you have up-down stairways. So I'm going to designate it in exactly the same area as the one above. So now we have some of our orders laid out here. Let's get some other things started before we unpause the game. If we unpause the game right now, basically only 2 people will be working. Everybody else will be standing around doing nothing, which is not what we want. We want to maximize our efficiency here. So another thing that we have to set up is a pen and pasture for our grazing animals. If you do not set up a pasture, then they will simply stand where they are and they will starve to death. So let's set that up. Let's hit escape to get back to the main menu here. The pen pasture is actually considered a zone. And a hotkey for zone, if we look over there, is I. So I hit I. And unlike designations, you actually map out your zone before you choose what kind of zone it's going to be. So let's put it in the same kind of area here. You can make it fairly large. I'm going to draw my box just like a designation. And hit enter here, and you can see my box. And now we're going to choose what kind of zone it's going to be. And you have all your options there on the right. Could be a water source, could be a area for fishing, and pen pasture, that's the one that we want, so I'm going to hit N, and now pen pasture is highlighted, and on the bottom you can see we have a new option to set pen pasture information, and so I'm going to hit capital N, and this is where we choose the specific animals that we are going to put in this particular pen pasture. I'm going to skip over the dogs and cats because they do not need to graze, and it's much better to have them kind of free roaming because the cats are going to go around and kill the vermin, like I said before, and the dogs are going to kind of protect us in our sort of early stages here. But we definitely need to put the ram, and the 2 horses in there. They're grazy animals. I'm also going to put the hens and the rooster in there. Now they do not actually need to be in a pasture. You could stick them anywhere and they'll survive. But I kind of want to keep all my animals together for now, so that will be fine. I'm going to hit escape now that that's all set up. So now what's going to happen is my woodcutter is going to go chop down wood, my miners are going to go dig out those stairs, and the other dwarves are going to start leading all the animals into the pen pasture. There's one more thing I want to set up before I unpause the game, and that is a stockpile. A stockpile is basically where you're going to keep all your goods, finished or unfinished. Right now we're going to set up a very generic stockpile, and the reason for doing that so early in the game is because, first of all, I don't want there to be idlers. I want them to be having something to do. I want to get all my stuff close to where I'm going to be building. But the most important reason is that all the perishable items will, if just left to sit out as they are, they're actually going to start to spoil. But if you put them in a stockpile, they will not spoil. So let's get that set up. Stockpile hotkey is P. And here's where you can choose what kind of stockpile you want. Could be for animals, for furniture, for corpses, but I'm going to do a custom stockpile because, like I said, it's going to include most everything. And I'm going to put it, let's put it outside the pen pasture. Let me stick it here in between these 2 little lakes. So we're going to draw our box just like designations. It's going to be fairly large. I'm going to hit enter. So here, all this shaded area here is our stockpile. We are not going to be able to use the area with trees in them, and that's kind of good to know, because if you designate a stockpile where there are actually items already there, like rocks or trees, then you deny yourself access to use those tiles. So it's good to know for future reference. I'm going to hit escape, and now we're going to use another key. This is Q. And you use Q to set building preferences. So basically anytime you want to set a certain option for any kind of building or add a task for the workshops that we're going to be building later on, you're going to be using the Q hotkey. I'm going to hover over my stockpile here, it's blinking. I'm going to hit S to change settings, and I want it to encompass everything. So I'm going to go through all these different categories and I'm going to enable all of them, but I'm not going to enable corpses, I'm not going to enable refuse, because I don't want that junk with all my other stuff. We're going to deal with that a little bit later. but everything else is enabled. I'm going to hit escape, and so we have our stockpile all set up. Now our dwarf will have plenty of stuff to do, except for our miners. We're going to dig out this stairwell in like 2 seconds. So when you want to unpause the game, you just hit spacebar. And now everybody's running around. You can see they're leading all the animals to their new home. The miners are running up here because they don't have the hauling labors enabled, if you remember. And you see they've already dug out both stairwells here, as denoted by the X's. So I'm going to pause the game. I'm going to give them a little bit more stuff to do. And for that, I want to go into the designations menu. I'm going to go down. I'm going to build a couple more stairwells. So we need up-down stairways. And this is another nifty little feature here. I'm going to select the same 4x4 area, but you can see how you can select a box, so that's on the X and Y coordinates. You can also designate areas in the Z coordinate. So while this is still, my selection box is still open, I'm going to go down a couple Z levels and hit enter. And you can see that the selection has gone all the way through those Z levels that I passed through. So let's hit the escape, sorry, and the space bar again. Unpause it. You can see our guy right there is chopping down trees, and he's immediately delivering it into the stockpile. All the other dwarves are starting to bring the other stuff out of the stockpile. Our miners are working on this stairway here, and they're continuing down. Pause the game again, go up. I'm going to hit K and see what's going on here. This is a sandy clay wall, and this is a loamy sand wall. So these two layers are actually going to be able to be farmed on without any irrigation or any other tampering, because it's sand and clay. Let's go down again. Alright, and this looks like it's going to be our first rock level. This is a siltstone wall. And down here is also siltstone. Okay, let's go back up. I'm going to hit, or actually let's give our dwarves a little bit more stuff to do here. Let's go into designations, and we're going to start using the mine designation. I think I'm going to go, or actually let me finish doing their mining first, and then I can go through, designate through all the Z levels. There we are. Pause it. D for designation, D for mine. And I'm just going to kind of widen this out a bit and go down all these different levels. Hit enter, and now this has all been widened out. I'm going to hit escape and unpause it. As you can see, all our animals are hanging out in our pen pasture here. And you'll notice that as time goes on, the green grass starts turning into little red spots or little brown spots, whatever. But anyway, the animals are basically, they're grazing. They're depleting the grass, so it's something to keep your eye on, because you don't want to keep them in a pen pasture that won't have any available food for them. So let's unpause. Things are moving along smoothly. No problems yet. Our dwarves have decided to start on the very bottom. And you can see here that as they're mining out the rock wall, they're leaving behind these rocks. So this is a siltstone rock right here. And we can use these rocks to build with. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. We're going to build our first workshop. So I'm going to go into B for building. And the building menu is a little confusing, because you see all these things like armor stands, beds, seats, burial receptacles, doors. This menu is not where we're actually building those things. So the building menu is actually kind of a build slash place item menu. We're going to build the bed in a workshop, but you use the building menu to place the already constructed bed. First thing we're going to need to do is build a carpenter's workshop, because like I said, we need to get beds for our dwarves or they're going to get unhappy very quickly. So let's hit W for workshop and C for carpenter's workshop. And I'm just going to arbitrarily place it right here. But you can see if I try to place it on top of a tree or a tile that's otherwise obstructed, it turns kind of red. So you can't place it there. I can put it here though. All the tiles are green. I'm going to hit enter. And here are the building materials that we have available. We have siltstone, like I was just talking about, and we have these acacia logs that we just got chopped down. But I'm going to use the siltstone because I intend to deconstruct this workshop later on, and siltstone is basically useless, and we're going to get a bunch of it. So I'm going to hit enter, and the person with the carpentry labor enabled is going to come and construct our workshop for us. Any minute now. But they do have a lot of labor in terms of hauling. And this is exactly why I like to turn off the labor, the hauling labors for the miners, because I don't want them to be dragging stuff around when they actually have something to do. Just like how I want the carpenter to come over there and build his workshop right now, but since hauling takes kind of a high priority in this game for some reason, he's probably just dragging some piece of junk from the wagon into the stockpile instead of going over there. But he'll go over there eventually. Well, in any event, this was a really good start to our fortress here. Oh, and there he is. He's building our. He just dragged the rock over there, and he just finished building the carpenter's workshop. Actually, let's squeeze one more thing in here. I was going to finish the video, but we might as well set up our workshop here. So I'm going to hit Q, like I said before, for building tasks and preferences. I'm going to move over here, and now it's blinking over our carpenter's workshop to show that it's selected. We have all our options on the right as usual. We can hit A to add a new task. And I want my carpenter to make beds. And the hotkey for bed is, surprisingly enough, B. So let's hit B. And you can see that the task is in there for construct bed. And since we want to make a bunch of beds, I'm actually going to hit R to repeat the task. So he is going to keep building beds until he runs out of trees, basically. So let's hit escape, and he is going to get going on that. And I'm going to finish up this episode. So please leave me a comment. Please like this video if you thought that it was helpful. And I will see you next time. Thank you.